feedback. All right, we're official. We are recording. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to MCE's third annual, I'm so proud to say that, Certify Amplify virtual workshop, where we are engaging our local businesses, inviting them to learn how to certify in the California Contracting Clearinghouse, and therefore how we can support amplify your voice and your business into a larger contracting pool. Welcome. Next slide, please. So I am pleased, my name is Alexandra, I am with MCE, I am our Strategic Initiatives Manager, and I am pleased to facilitate today's conversation. We have 3 expert panelists on the line ready to share their wisdom and their experience with this program and to maximize the opportunities that you have as a business to participate at this level of contracting. A bit of housekeeping, as you know, we are now recording this workshop, so please adjust your audio and visual controls appropriately. I feel like we've been on Zoom for quite a bit at this point, so please keep yourself on mute, the normal protocols, unless you have some questions. They will, because we have such a wide knowledge base to cover, I think our preference is that you enter your question into the chat box, but we're going to hold off on answering them directly until the end of the presentation, because it is likely that among our speakers, we do have an answer to your question already in the presentation. So we'll open up Q&A at the end of the presentations. In the meantime, as things come up, feel free to add them to the chat box, and we will be monitoring that during the presentation. And then, of course, this recording, as well as our speakers' presentations and a short survey, will be circulated to you after the event in case you have questions that come up later, or if you weren't able to join us in person, you can watch the recording and follow up with your questions. Next slide, please. So a bit about the agenda. You're going to start with me, Alexandra. I'm with MCE. I will be doing a little bit of the introductions and going over, as California's first community choice aggregation program, talking a little bit about the CCA movement, which is still pretty nascent for folks, and the contracting opportunities available through MCE and our sister CCA agencies. And then we're going to shift into the widest angle perspective, the full view, the most holistic perspective, which is Bezuit Dilgasa. She'll be representing the California Public Utilities Commission. I'm talking about the regulatory perspective that's holding all of this effort together. And from there, we are going to go a little bit more local to Northern California. We're going to go from Bezuit to Ruth. Ruth Sandoval is going to be representing Pacific Gas and Electric, or PG&E, talking about the utility industry contracting perspective. And so PG&E serves Northern California, and so we're going from state to a little more local. And from then, we're moving from Ruth to Teresa Davies, who is I honestly think she could fill up the entire hour. She's brilliant. Everyone's brilliant. Teresa, every time I come away from your presentations, I'm like, I should have taken more notes. So she will be representing the advocacy and networker perspective, representing Veteran Launch. So really bring out your pens to take notes for that presentation. From there, we're moving to the Q&A and wrap up our presentation. And I will say, okay, let's move to the next slide, actually. Because the person you barely saw at the front of the room in that last picture, she was about this big. Bezuit Dilgasa has been with us for all 3 of MCE's Certify and Amplify events. So it's a really pleasure to kind of continue this tradition. Bezuit is the small business advocate and liaison at the California Public Utilities Commission. She advocates for small and diverse businesses and implements the Commission's small and diverse business programs. And previously, she worked for the CPUC's Utility Enforcement Branch. And after Bezuit's presentation, we're moving to Ruth Sandoval, who's bringing the industry contracting perspective. Ruth has over 20 years of business experience and is an expert in contextual systems analysis, providing insight for collaborative strategies and partnerships. Ruth is currently at PG&E's supply chain responsibility and has oversight over a variety of departments. And before PG&E, she was the CEO of BusinessCon X and the vice president of Sodexo's Strategic Partners and Alliances. And she even served as the presidential appointee for President Clinton at the United States Small Business Administration. So thank you for being here, Ruth. Let's move to the next slide. And then finally, we have Teresa Davies presenting the consultant and connectors perspective. Teresa has 20+ years of experience in the utility and clean energy industry, including as senior manager of local customer experience at PG&E, as the Director of Utility Sales and Account Management at Ecova Incorporated, and almost a decade working for San Diego Gas and Electric in the areas of energy efficiency, as well as energy and gas distribution design and construction. A Navy veteran, Teresa is an advisory board member for Veteran Launch, a California Community Development Financial Institution, or CDFI, providing small business administration loans to qualified California small businesses owned by veterans and active duty military personnel. So welcome, everyone. I'm eager to hand off the mic to you, but before that, let's go to the next slide and just do a quick debrief on MCE. So who are we? What is MCE? We are the first community choice aggregation program in California. We are a public agency, technically a joint powers authority, meaning that incorporated jurisdictions and counties vote to join our program. So the counties and cities that have voted to join include what you see on this map: all of Marin County, all of Napa County, and a lot of Solano and Contra Costa County. So what's it mean when you vote to join? Next slide, please. So this is how electric service works in our 4 county member communities. MCE buys and builds renewable energy supply. We generate that electricity and we put it onto the grid. From there, we partner with PG&E to deliver that electricity to our customers. So those electrons get put up into the grid, gets transferred over the poles and wires and down to the customers. Now those customers can choose where they want their energy to come from. MCE has a number of options, including our light green product. Our deep green is 100% renewable, and PG&E also has their energy options as well. So now the customers have more choice as to where their energy comes from, hence the community choice aggregation method. Next slide, please. And we were the first. MCE launched in 2010, just in Marin County, but the movement has since grown. We're not the last. There are now 24 CCAs in California, serving more than 10 million customers. So very exciting, and quite a few more on the way. So those orange areas are considering CCAs. The greens are already up and doing business. And we will definitely circulate those slides because I know that text is very small, so you'll be able to zoom in once we send this out. Next slide, please. So what is MCE's role? Oop, there we go, perfect. What is MCE's role in this program? We're very excited as new legislation passed, gosh, was that just last year, Bezowit? I think so. Senate Bill 255, if I remember correctly, incorporated community choice agencies like MCE into the Supplier Diversity Program. And you'll be hearing a lot about supplier diversity. That's what we're here to talk about today. But we just produced our first ever Supplier Diversity Report. So even though we've been doing these workshops and getting local businesses more knowledgeable and more certified in the program, last year was the first year we actually did our own report. So I will share the link for where you could find that report in just a moment. I just wanted to flag we are slightly limited in our role, given that we are a public agency. And so we do have to work with Proposition 209, which reads that no public agency shall grant preferential treatment to a group based on race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin. However, we do have a very strong emphasis and interest in supporting locality, our local businesses, our local communities. So just as we've done in the last couple of years, and what we will continue to do is educate our local business community on these efforts, and if they qualify, support by connecting to the right people to certify in the Supplier Diversity Program. So we will continue to be operating within our role there. And let's move to the next slide. So I want to make sure I'm still on time. Great. So let's say that you have a small business, any business actually, and you want to contract with MCE. How would you go about doing that? So I would bring your attention to this webpage, mcecleanenergy.org/opportunities. This lists all of our current requests for proposals, solicitations, even some job openings, and you can use this to bid on the current openings that we have, where MCE is currently looking for partners and contractors. Well, let's say you're on there and you don't see something that you want to bid for immediately. You can also sign up via our interest forms. Then the interest forms cover every part of MCE, from marketing, legal work, contract, or our customer programs, energy efficiency, power procurement, anything. You can sign up as an interest form and be notified for future solicitations. So when we have a new business opportunity, you will get a notification saying that you can submit your bid. All right, so let's move to the next slide. And let's get started with our expert panelists. So I'm very happy to introduce Bezawit Dilgasa, representing the California Public Utilities Commission and giving the overall regulatory landscape perspective of the Supplier Diversity Program. Over to you, Bezi.
Thank you, Alexandra, for the warm welcome. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. As Alexandra mentioned, my name is Bezawit Dilgasa, and I'm with the California Public Utilities Commission's business programs. I'm here today to provide some background on the Commission's Utility Supplier Diversity Program that was established through the Commission's General Order 156. I will also talk about how to get certified with the Supplier Clearinghouse and the value of the certification to participate in the Commission's Supplier Diversity Program. So next slide. And thank you. So a little bit about the Commission. The Commission, commonly referred to as CPUC, is a state agency that regulates privately owned electric, natural gas, telecommunications, water, railroad, rail transit, and passenger transportation companies. It designs policies and issues regulations to ensure regulated utility companies provide safe, clean, reliable services and infrastructure at reasonable rates. The Commission also, through its Utility Supplier Diversity Program, contributes to the diversification and resiliency of California's economy by promoting and advocating for the increased utilization of women-owned, minority-owned, disabled veteran-owned, and LGBT-owned businesses. For convenience, from here on, I will collectively refer to these businesses as diverse businesses. Next slide. The Commission's Utility Supplier Diversity Program is one of its most successful programs that has been around for over 30 years. The program requires regulated utilities and community choice aggregators, which are referred to as CCAs, such as MCE, to set up a supplier diversity program designed to promote and ensure the increased inclusion and utilization of diverse businesses in procurement activities and contracts. Utilities and CCAs are also expected to encourage and work with their prime contractors to do the same, and also to track the dollar amounts spent with subcontractors that are diverse businesses. Annually, the utilities and CCAs are required to submit a performance report and a plan for the following year. For example, in 2020, the utilities spent $12.5 billion with diverse businesses, which was about 30% of their total procurement. In addition, the program encourages other entities in the energy sector, such as solar and storage companies, to develop a program that accelerates the inclusion of diverse businesses in their supply chains. The program sets a voluntary overall goal of 21.5%, 15% minority, 5% women, and 1.5% disabled veteran businesses. We are currently in the process of setting a goal for LGBT businesses, and hopefully that process will end soon. Next slide. For their supply diversity programs, utilities and CCAs will check if a business has verified its diverse status with the Supplier Clearinghouse and received a certification. So if you're looking to take advantage of the Commission's Supplier Diversity Program, it is important to get certified with the Supplier Clearinghouse. The Supplier Clearinghouse is an agency created to certify diverse businesses under the direction of the Commission. It verifies the diverse status of minority-owned, women-owned, and LGBT-owned businesses and maintains a public database of certified businesses. The Supplier Clearinghouse does not certify disabled veteran-owned businesses. That is done by the California Department of General Services. So the good news is if you're certified as a disabled veteran with DGS, then you're automatically included in the Supplier Clearinghouse database. This database is what utilities use and CCAs, prime contractors, and other companies use when they're looking for diverse businesses. Next slide. You may ask, what are the benefits of getting certified? Some of the benefits are through certification, your business will be officially recognized as a diverse business, and this will help distinguish you in the marketplace you are competing in. Here, I want to emphasize that certification does not mean you're qualified for a contract with utilities. It only means your business is a verified diverse business. As I mentioned earlier, when you are certified, your business will be available in the database companies use to find diverse businesses, which means your business visibility increases. When measuring their supplier diversity performance, utilities count only those procurement spends with businesses that are in the Supplier Clearinghouse database. So they'll be looking for businesses with Supplier Clearinghouse certification. Utilities and the Commission use the Supplier Clearinghouse database for marketing events, contracting opportunities, and other kind of information. For example, the events will help you connect and engage with utility companies, prime contractors, and other companies that have a supplier diversity program to help you form and build business relationships. Next slide. Certification with the Supplier Clearinghouse is free and online. It is renewed every 3 years. Once you're applied, it may take about 4 weeks to process the application. Businesses that are at least 51% owned by minority, women, or LGBT person or persons, and businesses whose management and daily operations are controlled by the same individuals may be eligible for certification. The Supplier Clearinghouse also accepts certifications from the National Minority Supplier Development Council, the Women's Business Enterprise National Council, National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, and the Small Business Administration's 888. Next slide. When you're ready to get certified, go to the Supplier Clearinghouse homepage at www.thesupplierclearinghouse.com. I have a screenshot of the homepage on this slide, and when you're ready, just click on apply and the system will guide you through the application process. If you have any questions or issues, the Supplier Clearinghouse has customer representatives ready to assist you with all your needs. Their contact information is on this slide and also on the Supplier Clearinghouse website. Next slide. On this slide, I have some recommendations that I am sure you have heard before, but I don't think it hurts to repeat them. After you get certified, register your business by going to each utility and CCA supplier registration online portal. Connect with the utilities, supplier diversity representatives who can help you access their supplier diversity programs and contracting opportunities. And finally, I highly encourage you to read the utilities and now CCA's annual reports that you can find on the Commission's Utility Supplier Diversity website. These reports will help you understand their procurement process, area of opportunities, who their prime contractors are, what they're procuring, what their future needs are, and etc. These reports are useful tools that provide an in-depth information about the utilities procurement habits, successes, and challenges. Use them as part of your research. Next slide. Here is my contact information. If you have any questions or want to learn more about our programs, feel free to reach out to me anytime. And with that, that's all I have for you today. And I will hand it back over to Alexandra. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful presentation. And I feel like that turnaround time is so fast, 4 weeks for review. It's like, wow. There's no excuse. So I think that the application is fairly simple. As long as your paperwork is in order, it goes quickly. So thank you, Bezowit, for that presentation and for offering to help troubleshoot. Can we go to the next slide, please? So moving more locally, let's shift it over to Ruth Sandoval with PG&E.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. I, first of all, want to thank my fellow panelists. Being involved this last couple of weeks going over some of this, it has been really exciting to have these amazing conversations with all of you and such great expertise that you have on this panel. So great job pulling everybody together. I'm Ruth Sandoval. I'm at Supply Chain Responsibility for Pacific Gas and Electric. And I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of what the Supplier Diversity Program would be at PG&E. And similar to several utilities, you know, this is all of the utilities kind of function in the same way. So kind of getting a sense of what we do will give you a sense of what some of the other utilities do as well. Next slide, please. Supply Chain Responsibility is a department within the sourcing department of Pacific Gas and Electric. We have 3 core pieces of departments that we focus work on: Supplier Code of Conduct, which is to foster the supplier's awareness and compliance of our principles, our standards, and conduct ethical, to have an ethical supply chain. We have Supplier Diversity, which is, as you know, all of the supply chain working with diverse suppliers, small businesses, and a path for growth and inclusion for all of our suppliers. And then lastly is Supply Chain Environmental Sustainability. Our purpose here is to focus on reducing the footprint of products and services by selecting suppliers that are focused on environmental performance. We want to align our core missions and principles on sustainability with our suppliers as well. Next slide, please. So how do we do this? Like most utilities, we look at the reason why we're doing it, and then we implement paths on how we're going to do it, and then we obviously have metrics and results on how we do this. For us, it's really important to have a supply chain that's competitive, innovative, and brings value to PG&E and to the community. So we're looking for suppliers that are community engaged as well and are also part of a local economy and creating jobs in that economy. There are regulatory compliance issues, as everyone knows, that we work with, and in particular in the areas of safety and resiliency. Those are very critical in the utility industry and things that, as we look for suppliers, are part of the process. How we do this is really through leadership commitment. It goes all the way to the top, and everyone is very much aware and engaged in the involvement and the results of our Supplier Diversity Program. It's integrated into our business processes and into our sourcing operation. And we actually have champions within each line of business that advocate for our suppliers. So that becomes a critical part, and they work as an extension really of our department. We have a prime supplier engagement. So our suppliers who are larger and diverse suppliers and non-diverse are engaged with our subcontracting world as well. So part of it is making sure that they have opportunities to get their foot in the door through through some of the prime suppliers. And then we also have Prime Supplier Academy, which is a constant learning of the internal processes within PG&E to do work within PG&E. A lot of community partnerships. I think we all are engaged in various different organizations and actively play, you know, in any of the activities that the CPUC and MCE are doing as well. So always great to be with you guys on these kind of conferences and trainings, because I think we're just expanding the portfolio of work and teaching more people about what they need to do. And, you know, again, we do this through outreach and training. And for us, training is a really critical part of the work that we do. A lot of workshops. And now we've also, and I'll share a little bit more, we've added a learning management system so that we can have a tool online to educate our suppliers and potential suppliers. Our results are published, annual report, as Basie mentioned. This is a great tool, as you'll hear, that gives you a lot of great information about the company, whether it's our utility or one of the other utilities, any corporation. Always take a look at their annual report. There's things you will find that will be important to you as a business that you can connect to and align with. The other thing is, we want to make sure that we're really competitive in the supply chain and that reflects our customers. So our service area is really important to us. We take a look at the population, the businesses that are in the area, and again, look for ways to engage within our service area. The next slide, please. Thanks. This is part of our annual report. We report out on how much we have spent with diverse suppliers. It is pretty significant. It's 3.9 billion. All of the utilities do need to report out on their diverse spend. We've been championing supplier diversity for over 40 years. One of the leaders in supplier diversity from the onset, really, which was a great history to be involved with, to tell you the truth. We manage this spend and make sure that we are trying to hit these metrics and measure this monthly so we know where we are. And we do so in each category. So we're always looking at electric, at gas, at professional services to make sure that we are monitoring what the spend will be and where we may have potential challenges that are coming up or where we have potential opportunities. It's the way we are able to keep this number where it is. So couldn't do it without some great suppliers. So this is really important to us. And again, all the way from the top through all of our management, everyone is very much aware of this number and is a part of getting this number accomplished. So next slide, please. Diverse suppliers or businesses are embedded in our work across all of the lines. We have 822 active suppliers, and of the top 25 diverse suppliers, out of the top 25 suppliers, 32% of them are diverse. So a third of our suppliers of prime, which are the larger ones, are the ones that we are working with, and that's pretty significant to think that we've got that level of supplier and that capacity. There is a lot of direct and subcontracting suppliers as well. The subcontracting suppliers are a big part of what we do. And that is also an extension and an opportunity to get those subcontracting suppliers to become prime suppliers as well and become direct suppliers. Next slide. The areas of business. When you look at a utility, it is really, really important to understand where they do business and how they do business. Take a look at each area, whether it's electric, gas, corporate services, your area as a supplier, it becomes very important for you to understand where do you fit in that map of business. And the reason I say that is you don't want to waste a whole lot of time going after an area that you may not have an opportunity to do business in. So one of the most important things you have to do is to take a look at the areas of your business, and I'll go over just electric so that you can see in our area of business in electric, we do electrical and civil construction, engineering services, transformers. Vegetation management is a very big piece. This is California. It is fire season. Vegetation management is a big part of what we do. And then materials and safety. And again, you're working with the utility across the board. Safety is the number one thing that everyone will be looking at as part of a utility strategy. Next slide, please. We do a lot of work on developing our suppliers and supporting diverse and small businesses. And we created, as part of the technical assistance program, we just recently added a learning management system to the technical assistance program. So we have courses, modules that have been added, and this is a continuous process where you can continue to add more technical assistance programs and education to this module. Right now, there are 4 modules on disaster preparedness, and you take them at your own pace. So you can sign up, log in, and then you decide when you want to take the 4 modules. We also have 2 modules on cybersecurity. Again, great way for you to get yourself polished up, put a plan together on what you need to do for cybersecurity, especially now. If any of you have been watching the news, you know that we have a situation where cybersecurity has become critical to everything that we're doing. If it wasn't before, you should definitely be looking for that. So really easy, just go to pgnetap.com and you're going to find this module on how you can get a cybersecurity plan put together for yourself. Next slide. And how do you prepare for an opportunity? You need to outline your capabilities. This is part of any work that you're doing with any of the utilities, or for that matter, any corporation. Kind of having a capability statement. What can you do? What do you have experience in? And how are you going to be looked at? Remember, these are people who are working quick, fast, and they need to be able to see you. And for them to be able to see you, you need to give them something that they can take a look at quick and fast and know that you can become part of their team. So your capability statement is a big part of your tools to get that done. Make sure you're doing your research, that annual report. Check the industry requirements. What safety requirements? I mean, do you need to have gold shovel? Do you need to have INS? So there are things you should be checking as part of it as industry requirements. And then absolutely consider certification as a diverse and small business through CPUC and clearinghouse. And I have to tell you that we have a great story about one of our suppliers who actually was not a diverse supplier, but was owned by a diverse individual. And they started a D&I program inside their company. And when they did, that person started doing the research to get all of the information together to go into the clearinghouse and apply. And they did, and lo and behold, they had all of the documentation that they needed, and they became a diverse supplier. And here they've been doing work with us not as a diverse supplier. So part of it is you may not think you are, or you may not think that this is a good opportunity, but it is an opportunity and an advantage for you to have that certification. So go consider that definitely. And then, like I said, attending training and outreach events, whether virtual or not, you need to get out and meet other people in the industry. And beyond preparing for an opportunity, prepare your company for reaching out to other businesses. For example, what I mean by this is you need to diversify your client base. If you're doing work with PG&E, you could be doing work with another utility. So don't look at one utility as your only company. Look at all of the utilities as opportunities for you to do business. And don't put all your eggs in one basket, as they say. So really important that you diversify your outreach, especially at a time like this when we're all trying to come back after this past year. Be sure you update your social media. I know I didn't put this as your opportunities. Update your social media. It's the first place we all go. When we want to know something about you, the first thing we do is we go to social media, check your website, check your LinkedIn. We're going to go find out about you. So that's another thing you need to do. So for more information, please go to pgne.com, supply chain responsibility, and you will have all of the information you need about our program, including registering on our site as well. And then pg&etap.com is the educational venue. This is the platform for you to go in and take a look at all of the courses, and courses are being added, modules are being added as we go. So you'll see a few more coming on board here in the next couple of months. But with that, I hope I made it in my time, Justin. Thank you so much. And Alexandra, it's all yours.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ruth. A lot to absorb, and now I want a golden shovel.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Let's keep moving. Next slide, please. I am so pleased that Teresa Davies is here today. Thank you for coming once again. Teresa was with us last year as well, and we just couldn't pass up an opportunity to give you the mic again. So Teresa, over to you with Veteran Launch.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. So you've heard a lot of information from both Bezi and Ruth covering all the objectives from the PUC standpoint and the utility standpoint. And so I'm here just to help visualize and align those objectives when you're seeking opportunities to work with utilities to grow your business. Alexandra shared my background, but just to give you a little bit more flavor on my roles on the client side of things at SDG&E and PG&E, I had oversight of a lot of third-party vendors, including selecting them, meaning I reviewed RFPs and then managed their budgets and their delivery. So I'm very familiar with the interaction, of vendors and what's required, at least from a client satisfaction standpoint. And then I've worked in sales under prime contractors and program operators across the US. And so I managed multi-million-dollar portfolios that included diverse subcontractors and partners when we went after those services. And then finally, I had a brief period of time where I was a business owner myself. And so I had minority-owned and service-disabled veteran-owned certifications, and I was successful in securing federal contracts and work with the utilities. And so I give you that little bit of background just to give you understanding that I've been in your side, I've been in your shoes. So I know this can be overwhelming, and I know it's a lot of information. And so over the next few minutes, I'll cover some items that are of importance to us, whether you're a new business aiming for your first contract, or you have existing business that you'd like to grow. Next slide, please. So these are the 5 areas that we'll work into, and a lot of what I'm going to share is going to seem repetitive. I'm just going to be highlighting a lot of the things you've already heard from both Bezi and Ruth in their recommendations, and so you'll hear them again here because they're that important. And so next slide, please. We'll start off with the basics. And so you heard, as utilities, they serve millions of customers, right? And IOUs, you heard, are focused on safety and efficiency. And so as a potential supplier, you have to make sure that you're aligning with that objective, which means if your business and the way you conduct your business is a risk at any point, they're going to be less likely to secure business with you. And so there are things that are very basic that could be a risk. So for example, is your business prepared and ready to move right into contract? So at minimum, you should have an established business that is recognized with this California Secretary of State. You have all your licenses, you have a business banking account. You have a website, you have presence that establishes you as an existing business. And so I've listed some things there like financials and licenses and insurance and bonding, whatever is going to be required to help you do business. And then do you have an established product or service with actual sales and customers? Meaning, are you a competitive business without the diverse certifications? Can you compete in the industry that you're now trying to procure more clients with? And so Ruth mentioned having that capability statement. And it's important because you need to be able to show past performance, even if it's unrelated to the utilities. So if you're doing business with another private company or with another city or whomever, being able to clearly articulate types of service that you've performed, where you perform them, and having some validation on the consistency that you've performed well. And so it's important to have all those little ducks in a row. And then the supplier certification, as we mentioned before, make sure you get your certifications, even if you just go through the exercise, because you'll recognize very quickly if you don't have the right documents ready to go in place, you'll know where you're lacking in building out that basic fundamentals. And then lastly on this slide, I have do you have the capital to sustain? What I mean by that is that initial contracts with utilities or even large corporations will have a lead time from initial contract to your first invoice. That can range anywhere from a net 30 to a net 60. And if you don't have the capital to sustain and ramp up in a new contract, then you're posing a risk to the utility who's then seeking to hire you, and that they risk that you won't be able to offer services. And so this may seem elementary, but in my experience, I've come across suppliers that are just ill-prepared to do business with the utility. This can be a lack of financial accounting controls. meaning can you even properly invoice based on your contract requirements by separating the types of services that you're providing versus product versus taxes and so on, because sometimes that documentation is required as part of your contract. Do you have internal timekeeping system if you're providing a service with multiple employees? Are you able to bill on an hourly basis and track that, as well as tracking your budgets for these contracts? And then if the business is so new that you just started out, you don't have necessarily a track record, which can confidently convey experience and less risk to the utilities. Next slide, please. So you've heard quite a bit about these annual plans that we've all talked about, right? The GO 156 annual plans. And so in these plans, I'm here to try to show you like how do we use these plans to your advantage. And so as you've secured your diverse certification, there's just so much information. So how do you start? And so the first rule of sales, is know your customer. And it'll be important that you get an understanding of your future client, which is the utility, and determine if your business objectives align with theirs. So starting on their website, gaining an understanding of their own supplier requirements. Ruth shared quite a bit about PG&Es. They also have training and certifications and other types of resources for you. So make sure that you clearly understand what that utility is providing to you as a future supplier. And then learn about the types of procurement that they source. So what I've done here on the right-hand side is I pulled a chart just right out of Southern California Edison's annual plan, just to give you an idea of the breadth of detail that they offer in these plans. And so in here, they have a lot of insights about how they're doing in a diverse supplier category, which certifications those people have or those companies have, and so on. And so, as you're learning more about the utility and where they do business, if you're, for example, if you're a traffic control company and the utility service territory crosses several counties, are you prepared to handle the volume of work and coordination that kind of complexity will bring? And so it's important that you kind of set your expectations on the type of client or type of utility client that makes sense for you to start doing business with. So in this report, so how do we use this report to leverage our own certifications or our own benefits? And so I highlighted this because in this chart here, and hopefully you can see it, it's a little small, but on line 9, you can see that they are highlighting their spend. So Edison is highlighting their spend in minority females. So this is certified businesses that are certified as a female minority that is Native American. That's where I'm looking at right now. And the reason I'm highlighting this is because out of all of those diverse suppliers, it has the lowest penetration, meaning the lowest amount of business, diverse business is done in that category of small business or diverse business. And so if I was a minority female Native American, Edison would probably be my first target, just because there's an area there that is lacking that I can go after, where I'm bringing value not only in the services I provide, but I'm also meeting some of their goals and objectives in having procurement in that area. And so in the reports, you can also find other prime contractors and other diverse suppliers that are often highlighted in these reports. And so I think it's important just to delve in. They're usually not that complicated. They're maybe about 30 to 40 pages, but it's a lot of images, a lot of charts, but it's a lot of good information to delve through. And as Ruth mentioned as well, these reports will highlight the areas of services where they're also lacking. So like in Edison's report, they have a plan here to address a lack of diverse suppliers in legal services, financial services, consulting services, insurance, and advertising. So you may not think that, right, from a utility, that would be an area that they're aiming at procuring more diverse services within those categories. Next slide. All right, so where do you go from there? So one of the best ways to get in the door with utilities is becoming a subcontractor to primes. And so you have to find contacts to build your network. And so one way to do that is to tap into statewide trade associations or industry organizations. And so I highlighted just examples. And here on the first bullet here is the California Energy Demand Side Management Council. And so this is a trade organization that provides energy efficiency and demand response products and services in California. And so you can actually go onto their website and view their member list. And their member list has a list of about 24 organizations that provide energy solutions in the hundreds of millions of dollars on a national level. And so for their work in California, they have to have diverse suppliers to support that effort. And there's hyperlinks there, and you can check them out. Another way to get contacts is to reach out to utilities' existing contractors. And so some utilities actually post contact information about their primes. And so PG&E, as you know, the leader in safety, they have a list of their safety qualified contractors posted on their website. It's an actual Excel spreadsheet with company names and phone numbers. And so all these things that I'm mentioning, I included a slide that has all the hyperlinks, so you don't have to kind of remember everything that I'm talking about, but you'll have a resource and links as well going forward. Number 3, leverage any kind of business association, anything related to your certifications. This could be like the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce or the Association of Energy Engineers. Here I've highlighted Veterans in Business Network. Obviously, as a veteran, it's near and dear to my heart, but they work very closely with quite a few utilities with frequent events. And on their website for the VIB, they actually have an online RFP board. And so their online RFP board will have all the RFPs that they have available for both utilities and construction firms, where you could always partner with a veteran-owned business and try to secure that. And so in that, you can actually look at the Supplier Clearinghouse database to find other diverse suppliers. There's a searchable database there, and to find other diverse businesses that offer complementary services for you. So if you're a paving contractor, maybe you partner with a diverse traffic control contractor or whomever it may be, and then start in your local region and then move out into a wider area. Next slide, please. All right, so on the left-hand side here, I have just like, okay, 5 steps. What do I do first? So basically start small and build your trust. That's how you kind of grow. So you start very small, start to build that past performance, move it forward. And then once you gain experience as either a subcontractor or a prime, you start to do what Ruth had mentioned, right? If you're working for PG&E, you can work for other utilities. You can easily start to leverage that. Once you strengthen your competencies, you grow to expand your client base and services. So multiple services with one client or multiple clients with one service. And then you replicate that and you scale. On the right-hand side, I highlighted Patriot General. So Patriot General was highlighted in San Diego Gas and Electric's annual diversity supplier report. And they included a QR code with the video, but basically Patriot General is a service-disabled veteran-owned construction firm that has been contracting with SDG&E for 10 years. But they started off as a subcontractor with a 3-person erosion crew, and they provided just grading and construction work. And because of SDG&E's mentorship and participation in their diversity financial capabilities workshops and really leveraging, they expanded that service into Edison's territory and then to Southern California Gas as well. And so they were highlighted in the annual report for 2020 because today they are now competing as a prime contractor, and they now impact all local economy with job creation, and they have over 120 people in both management and field employees. So it can happen. You just have to be dedicated in moving it forward and have continuity and consistency in service and satisfaction. And last slide. So we've covered a lot. And so I just had a little couple bullet points here to close with questions that you should really consider and self-reflect, right? And so number 1, it's looking at, are you ready to really scale? Do you have either the personnel or the resources in place and the standard operating procedures to be able to scale your business to serve a large utility? And if not, then ask yourself, what could you need to do to get there? The lead time to deliver. So I have come across subcontractors where they have done a tremendous amount of work for me in the area that I was focused on. And immediately I wanted to leverage and champion their work to my cohorts and my counterparts at other utilities. And it became very apparent very quickly that they just could not scale at that level of success in the speed that we needed them to scale, which is a very difficult position to be in because it's hard when there's opportunity that comes to you and you're ill prepared to take it. So just think about how you would scale if someone were to come to you and say, we want to hire you today for everything that we do. Can you ramp up quickly and so on? I highlighted the risk management procedures and continuity plan. Ruth touched on it a little bit about cybersecurity, but in the PUC's en banc presentation from 2019, they highlighted several program challenges into supplier diversity that would be a barrier to the utilities being able to hire diverse suppliers. And in one of them that was highlighted was that small businesses often lack the risk management and redundancy plan that is necessary to minimize risk to the utility and to serve their customers efficiently. And that could be something like a contingency plan for COVID. When COVID happened, if you were not a remote service, how would you be able to manage that and continue to serve the client without minimal interruption and so on? And so security requirements. So for cybersecurity, sometimes when you're working with the utility, they require that there's some data requirements sometimes. So if you're collecting data, you have to make sure that some of your servers are located that are protected, they're located in the US, there's other types of requirements. So I think it's important to check out some of the terms and conditions that a utility would require a contractor to sign. And I actually have a link for it, but there's one from PG&E that's about 13, 14 pages. And it's basically standard T's and C's So it might be nice to run through that and see if there's anything there that is a barrier immediately to stopping you from working, and then how would you overcome that? And so I think I'll end there. The next slide is just the resource links that I mentioned. They're all working, they're all correct. If you have any questions, by all means, feel free to reach out, and hopefully this information is useful for you going forward. So thank you, that's my time.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Teresa. And this page itself represents a lot of work and knowledge to even find the information that people are searching for. So if you're a business on the line, please click through to these links, because this represents a lot of effort and a lot of knowledge to cultivate these resources for you. So incredible job, Teresa. Thank you. I know we just got something in the chat. We will definitely be sending out a copy of all of our speakers' presentations to all the registrants. And someone said, oh, I'm so sorry, I have to jump off the line. I can't wait to see the recording. So thank you. I think we have a question in the chat, and we have a couple more here. So I know we have a few minutes here. Caroline asks, and this is maybe for Basie, why are the diversity requirements for some groups so low? I think women was listed as only 5% on a slide from earlier. Can you talk about the distribution of percentages over categories?
Yeah, I was looking at Caroline's question and thinking to myself, I actually don't know the specific details, but but it is, for now, it is 5% for women and 1.5% for disabled veteran. And usually the process to determine the percentage is we give the utilities some time to see how their performance are in that categories. For example, for the LGBT, for example, they were given 5 years to collect data and to assess what kind of goals they can set. And then after that, then they submitted their recommendations. I would imagine for the women-owned businesses, the same process was applied, where the commission looked at the available women-owned businesses in the market and compared it with the minority-owned businesses as well, and set the goal. But I can look into it and give you a definitive answer sometime down the line. And I also wanted to point out, now that you mentioned it, I realized that goal was set in the 80s, in 1988 to be precise. And so maybe it might be time to revisit it. Thank you.
Great question. And again, it's a percentage of a large number, right? So 5% of $100,000, very different than a multi-million-dollar company. So don't be deterred by the small percentage. The contract dollars are out there. We just got another question. About effective mentorship. Teresa, you had mentioned that Patriot had a really good mentorship model that they followed, and they were able to level up their business. Is there a good organization that matches emerging firms to good mentors?
That's interesting. I know that the different utilities offer some, some networking in that way to partner up. And I know, and again, speaking from just the veteran side of things, the Veteran in Business Network offers a mentoring program as well, where they work and partner with different companies. I'm not aware of any organizations in California that focuses specifically on that, but I'm a firm believer in a closed mouth doesn't get fed. I've been known to cold call, and I will pull a list from the Supplier Diversity Database, find someone who's been in business for X amount of years who shares my same, experience and background, and who also, in my case, would also happen to be a veteran, and I would reach out directly. 100% of zero is zero, and so you have to start to leverage that.
Yeah, and I think that's what do they call that? I forget. Even though the Supplier Diversity Clearinghouse was kind of built for people looking for suppliers, I think you bring up a really great point. It's also a place you can search for partners, search for mentors, search for whatever it is that you're trying to find. Teresa, in your presentation, you talked about reaching out to partner with a business that kind of is complementary to your own to make your bid to the utility more attractive or more competitive. Can you talk a bit more about using the clearinghouse in that way?
Oh, for sure. So when I was a small business, so we were doing a lot of street lighting projects through ARA funding. So this was a long time ago. But one of the things that we were working on is we were the suppliers. We had a lot of products available, but we would partner with another veteran-owned business who was an electrical engineer, or someone else who had the traffic control, who was minority-owned. And so when we petitioned for our work to the utility, we can show that in this partnership, this triad of support, we were 100% diverse in that procurement. And so being able to compete, with 100% diverse proposal versus maybe a competitor who's not, or who has only subcontractors, it leverages that playing field just a little bit and being able to partner and move it forward. And so it's just a matter of being creative and then going after things, a little bit broader than maybe what your limited skills or services are narrowly, contained in. So it's a good way to just leverage that experience.
And to be prepared, because I think, Teresa's right. You need to know these potential partners that you would have in advance. You have to have these relationships already established so that when the opportunity does arise, you can bring them into the fold and compete for the contract. A lot of the time, trying to do it at the last minute puts you in a situation of not knowing who you're working with or who you've brought onto your team. So, using the database from the CPUC, using the networks that you have, really you have to identify how do they collaborate or enhance the work that you do, and do it in advance. Know that these are the people that you're going to have working with you.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to add one more helpful point, I hope. So the commission, in order to support the supplier diversity programs of the utilities, we host, in collaboration with the utilities, 2 expos a year, one in Northern California and one in Southern California, to give you the opportunity to actually connect with the utilities directly, and also to meet other businesses that are attending the event. So it's a great place to network, not only with the utilities, but also with other diverse businesses.
That's a great, yeah, we've attended those expos. Also some great bagels and coffee. So back when we get together in person, there really are opportunities, and they've transitioned to online. So you can still now attend virtually in that capacity. So I know we're at time, we're at 1 o'clock here. We do have one more question. So if our speakers can give us a tiny bit more time. Suzanne asks if there's a list of emerging diverse subcontractors available for prime RFP applicants, so that potential applicants could reach out to the subcontractors to build them into their application.
I can highlight too. I'm not sure of an actual list, but I know that when we were primes going after California business and we had to have some diverse suppliers, we would either go to the supplier clearinghouse database and find diverse suppliers within the areas of service, or 2, we would ask our existing diverse suppliers to recommend who they know quite a bit. And that recommendation, that personal referral, carried a lot more weight than any list we could have searched or cold called. So just, keep in mind, I'm not aware of an actual list that exists other than the clearinghouse database, and I could be wrong there.
All right, that was very helpful. Thank you, Teresa. Any final comments from our panelists? Maybe we'll just have a minute or 2. Otherwise, we can wrap up here. All right. Well, my MCE, thanks you guys for being part of this 3rd annual. We hope that this continues to be an opportunity to brainstorm and collaborate. Even I'm getting new ideas for how we can better serve our business community and make sure that they are connected and maximized in the skill that we have in our local labor market. So with that, not to fear, we will be circulating this recording and presentations to all registrants very shortly. My thanks again to the panelists for taking your time today, and I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. All right, bye everyone.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.